Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's Russell with Ink and Paper Blog. Happy Wednesday. I hope you guys are having a fantastic week. It is hot as heck here. I am actually freshly home from a 3-day work trip and I am getting ready to go on a 6-day vacation. So there is a lot going on in this house tonight. We are traveling tomorrow very early. We're getting in the car and driving up to Oregon. It is my niece's graduation from college and my whole family is going to be there. So that is very, very exciting. So I will say that this is actually going to be my last video until next Wednesday when I return from that trip. I'm not taking any equipment and I don't plan on doing any videos because I will be very busy with my family. But this is actually a pretty exciting video. I'm here to do another read and reviewed video. This is going to be the special edition of my vacation TBR. As you guys know, I did a video where I told you the 6 books that I was taking on vacation with me to New York City, and I actually read 4 of the 6, and that's pretty good considering how busy I was and all the stuff that was going on and all the stuff I was trying to fit in to my days there. So I'm pretty happy with that. I have to say Bryant Park helped a lot. I did a lot of reading in Bryant Park, and eventually I was so exhausted that I was just reading in my hotel room. But as always, please get out your pen, get out your paper, get out your Goodreads. All 4 of these books will wind up on your TBR for very different reasons, but they're all amazing. Please remember to order your books from independent bookstores near you, the ones that you like to support, or have your library order them in advance for you so that you get them when they come out. So let's get started. The first book that I want to tell you about is In West Mills. This is by Deshaun Charles Winslow. This is his debut novel, out now from Bloomsbury. You can actually get this one. It's on the shelves as we speak. And this book is freaking fantastic. Deshaun was actually at Book Expo America, and I knew he was there, and I was trying to go to a panel that he was on, and I just missed him, and I really wanted to meet him and tell him how fabulous I actually thought his debut was. This is the story really of 2 friends in a small town called West Mills. The first is Knott. She goes by Knott. Her name is Azalea Center, I believe. And she is a woman of her own means. She lives by herself. She is a partier. She is a drinker. She's known to drink to excess. She goes to the local, I'm going to call it a bar or a tavern, where she is known to have a really, really good time. She's not one to settle down. And her friend, her best friend and neighbor is Otis. And is it Otis? I think for some reason, his middle name is Otis Lee. Otis is her best friend and really sort of like a caretaker for her, one that always sort of keeps her on the straight and narrow. The novel starts in, I think, 1941 and continues forward in time. As events happen, we get further and further into the time, closer and closer to current time period. So it's really a saga, a family saga, about Knott and Otis in different ways. Now, at the very start of the book, Knott is in a relationship with a man who really wants to marry her, but wants her to sort of settle down her ways. And that's not who she is. She knows who she wants to be. She knows who she is. And she's going to be that woman. And she doesn't see herself as a person settling down and getting married. Otis is married and has a young son of his own. He lives next door. And he has his own sort of tale of taking care of his friend and also really being part of the community. What is really great in Deshaun's novel is he creates West Mills as a community. He introduces you to different people and in a few pages, a few lines, really gives you a sense of this community. Some things happen. I don't think it's any spoiler to say that Knott gets pregnant. Not once, but actually twice. And she does carry the babies to term, but she gives them up for adoption. That really affects who she is as a person moving forward and makes her make certain decisions regarding her life. And this book is really about how those decisions affect not only her and who she is, but also the community as her children go out into it and also the people around her. I absolutely thought that Knott is one of those characters you will not forget. That sounds weird to say that. Her nickname is K-N-O-T, not N-O-T. But she is so vividly portrayed. I absolutely fell in love with her. I did not always love her decision making. Sometimes I was like, what are you doing? But I was really bought into her, and I was really bought into the friendship between her and Otis. Even the struggles when Otis did not support what she was doing or wanted her to make different decisions, and Otis's wife, they tried to convince her to do different things. you're really bought into the sophistication of that sort of relationship between those two, and also how that relationship affects sort of a bigger, broader picture. I think that this is one of those books, if you like a novel that sort of focuses on a community, gives you strong character development, and really makes you fall in love with flawed people, real people, people that you can see and understand, I think you will really enjoy In West Mills by Deshaun Charles Winslow. This is out from Bloomsbury, and I want to thank Bloomsbury for sending me this early copy because I will absolutely be picking it up, but you can get it now. It is actually out and on the shelves. Highly recommend it, you guys. Great read. Great read. The next book that I read is very, very different, and that is The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. This is Yoko Ogawa, translated from the Japanese by, I want to say it's Stephen Schneider, but let me make sure. Stephen Schneider. This is coming out from Pantheon Books. Hold on, there's a folded page in here. It happened in my bag. I'm so unhappy about that. This comes out in August from Pantheon. I apologize. I don't have the exact date in August. But this is, Yoko Ogawa is one of those writers that writes so many different types of books. It's really hard to pin down how you would describe her. This is a tale set on an island where items disappear. And when they are sort of disappeared from the consciousness, one day you'll wake up and you'll realize something as, let's say, a typewriter is taken away from the consciousness. So what that means is you as a person no longer remember what a typewriter is. And in that first day that those objects disappear, people go around the island and they destroy whatever the object is that has disappeared. However, what happens is that as things start to disappear, it changes the dynamics and the people for different reasons on this island. For example, if you are a person that works on typewriters and then all of a sudden there are no typewriters, your whole life is changed by the disappearance of this object. Our main character is actually a novelist, and she writes books about different things that are not disappeared things. She just writes novels about her community, about the island. And they seem to be well enough received that she earns a living on that. What we find out very soon in the beginning is that her mother was one of these rare people that could remember objects that had disappeared, and her mother had collected them and kept them in the house. But we find out as sort of pages go on, this is not a spoiler, that her mother was taken away one time, and all of the objects that were being stored in her house have since disappeared. Her father has also passed, and she is living alone as a writer, and she has a couple of really important relationships. She has a relationship with her editor. Her editor is very important to her. He is sort of her artistic director. He helps her direct the novels and also sort of keeps her in sort of a communication about the world in which she lives. There's also an old man that lives on a ferry that has been a family friend for a while. Ferries have disappeared from the consciousness. This one is sort of, no one knows what it is, but he uses it as a home. But he was a person that ran a ferry and no longer can do that. He sort of is a pseudo-father figure for her and is invented in that way. What this book is really about in twofold is it turns out that the editor is one of those people that can remember things, and our main character goes forward to try to hide him in order to protect him from the memory police. The memory police is a group that goes around making sure that no one is keeping these objects and sort of makes people disappear who may have issues with forgetting things like the typewriter, if that was one of them. What is really also very interesting is that the main character is writing a novel at the same time about a woman who has lost her ability to speak and can only type. And she types, and she is in a relationship with a man that she communicates through the typewriter. And what is really cleverly done is, as one story is going along and the novel is being written, you start to see parallels between what is happening in the two worlds. And this idea is things disappear in one world and a woman's voice is taken away in this novel, how there's a connection between that metaphor. And what's really great is Yoko Ogawa has a way of taking a step back where it almost seems like everything is allegorical, but you're still really bought into these people and these characters, but there's a certain distance, so you're sort of seeing an overall picture. There's a sense also of tension because you don't know as you're reading what object is going to disappear next and how it's going to affect not only our character, but also the world that she lives in. I flew through this book. The translation is gorgeous. The language is amazing. The story is complex and fascinating and really sort of puts into perspective this idea of things that disappear from the consciousness. For example, think about, just for example, Thomas Brothers map guides. Those of you that are my age or older probably remember having these in your car. They don't exist anymore really in the consciousness of society. People do not use them anymore because our phones have replaced them. But every once in a while I think about them and they bring about a nostalgia, but I can't always put my mind around it. I thought a lot about things like that in my life while I was reading this book. It made me think a lot. I loved it. I think it is fantastic. This is The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. This is coming out from Pantheon Books in August 2019, and it is translated from the Japanese by Stephen Schneider. I think Stephen Schneider has done a lot of Yoko Ogawa translations. I think most of the ones on my shelf are translated by him. The next book is for those of you that are just looking for that big book to read this summer that is going to make you feel great, tear your heart out, make you cry, make you love characters, and just fly through. For lovers of Pachenko, books like that, I'm going to tell you about If You Want to Make God Laugh by Bianca Marais. This is a fantastic read. Set in South Africa, where Bianca is from. We have three characters. We have two white women, and I'm going to just take a moment because sometimes you know how I am with names. We have Delia. I think it's Delilah, actually. Hold me up. Give me a second because you know how I am with names. We have Delilah, we have Ruth, and we have Zadwa. Ruth is a woman who has become famous for sort of a scandalous reason. And at the very start of the book, her marriage is falling apart. And we find out that she is about to get a divorce that she doesn't want to have. And she has a problem with alcohol and excess. And what happens is after she sort of tries to create an event to spurn her current husband into staying, it forces her to leave her life and go back to her family home. We have Delilah, who is a woman who works in a children's facility for orphans. I want to say it's in Rwanda. I apologize, I don't remember specifically. She is sort of a fallen nun, and she's got a very, very interesting history and past. And what happens is she gets a notification that someone is in the hospital and is likely not going to make it, and she must return. She is driven to return, and you learn more about why as the book goes on, and she returns also to South Africa. Zadwa, I'm hoping I'm saying that right, is a young African woman who finds out that she is pregnant and is living in a tenement outside of the city where she lives with her mother. Her mother is very sick, but really is the one who supports the family, and is very disappointed when she finds out her daughter is pregnant because she has high hopes for where her daughter is going to go in her education and sort of the next steps in her life. What you have here, because I don't want to spoil anything, because half of the brilliance of this book is how Bianca intertwines these three women. I don't want to tell you any spoilers, but what happens is these lives wind up intertwining. The young woman has the baby, and her mother makes a decision regarding that child that sort of leads all of this into a connection. And that is all I'm going to say about the plot. What I am going to tell you about and why you should read this book is because Delilah, Ruth, and Zadwa are 100% full-fledged women that you will absolutely be rooting for and falling for and loving, regardless of their flaws, regardless of their decisions. Bianca makes them so real and so well developed that you feel like you are there with them a lot of the time with the decisions that they're making, and you just feel the ache and the passion and the love that is going around this novel. This novel deals with a lot of really hard topics. I will say you have to deal with, there's rape, there is religious mistrust, there is alcoholism, there is, there's a lot of stuff. There's racism. This book is dealing with a time period where this takes place when Nelson Mandela was up for election to become the president. There was a lot of political turmoil in South Africa at that time, and the book really does a great job of explaining to you the different perspectives. There's a lot of racism that's going on, which all of these women deal with in different ways. And there's also the AIDS epidemic and this idea of how fast it was spreading through Africa at the time that this book takes place, and sort of how women in certain communities were really at the mercy of men when it came to the spreading of HIV and the AIDS epidemic. And Bianca handles some really tough subject matter with such grace and such aplomb that you're just like, you're there and your heart is aching. And it's funny, I took this book, I read it in Bryant Park, and I posted a picture, and Bianca responded on it, and I just said to her, shame for you for making me cry in Bryant Park. At the end of this book, I was in public and my eyes were full of tears, and they were tears of sadness, they were tears of joy, and they were just tears of hope. I loved this book, and I think you all will love it. If you are a fan of her last book, I think you are going to absolutely adore this. If you like sort of family sagas and family dramas and learning about a world that you probably or may not know a lot about, you guys, come on. This is If You Want to Make God Laugh by Bianca Marais. This is out from Putnam. It comes out July 16th, 2019. Thank you very much for Putnam for sending me this early copy. I will be raving about this book as long as I can. It is definitely going to make my top 10 at the end of the year. You guys will want to read this. Get it. Get it as soon as you possibly can. Last but not least, this video is a little long because I'm raving about these books, is a debut novel. Oh, hold on. I just threw it on the floor. Sorry about that. And that is Cygnet by Butler. This is coming out, I want to say, if it's not next week, it's the week after, in the month of June. This was sent to me kindly by Harper. Butler, I follow her on Twitter, and her style is freaking fantastic. I sort of have like this style crush on her. Cygnet is the story of a young woman who is left as a teenager on an island by her parents. Her parents have a very rough past. They are involved in drugs and alcohol. And one day they are brought to this island where her grandmother lives, and they basically leave their daughter in the care of their grandmother. What's really interesting about this island is only populated and full of people who have retired of a certain age, who are really there to stay away from the mainland, to stay away from youth, to stay away from children. So she is not, and her name is Kid, she goes by Kid. And she's 17, and she's not completely welcome by most of the people on the island. And unfortunately, we find very soon at the beginning of the book that her grandmother has passed away, and now she's there by herself, and they don't know exactly what to do with her, but she has found a way to survive. And the way she has found to survive is she works for a woman who is asking her basically to go through all of her photos and videos of all of her life and sort of touch them up and make them more real. And basically she's creating new memories from old memories. It's a great part of the book. I do not want to ruin that for you, but it's really cool. But what Kid has done is, using this, she is able to earn enough money to pay for her grandmother's house and stay on the island. But this is really a book about becoming part of a community in some ways that you're not always invited into. She creates relationships with many different people on the island, which Susan Butler does an amazing job of the complexity of those relationships. Also, there is this idea of what is she going to do? How is she going to become the woman she wants to become? Is this situation somewhere that she can do that? Or does she have to find a way to leave the island? Can she be who she wants to be where she's at? Or does she have to find some new place? And I will say that I was rooting for Kid the whole entire time. I really liked her as a character. She seemed very real. She comes across as just someone that has a certain sensibility that you can really get behind. This is actually a really great debut novel because it really shows what Susan Butler can do with character and language and just a simple, easy plot, but you're really involved and you really want to know what's going to happen to her. There are a lot of metaphors, so if you are not one for flowery language, this may not be the book for you, but you know I eat that stuff up. So I absolutely loved it. I think it is beautifully written and I highly recommend it, and I want you all to support Susan Butler in her debut novel, Cygnet. This is out from Harper and it comes out, if it's not next Tuesday, it's the Tuesday after. I apologize, but it is out in the month of June. You guys, those 4 novels carried me through New York. They were absolutely all fantastic. I hope every single one of them makes them onto your TBR because they are absolutely worth your time. I promise you, promise you, promise you. As always, if you are a return subscriber, I thank you so much for coming. If you are new to my channel, welcome. I hope all of these books wind up on your TBR and you come back for another video soon. As always, until next time, which will be next Wednesday at the earliest, I wish you guys all happy reading. Follow me on Instagram or Twitter so you can see what I'm reading and what I'm taking with me and if I buy any books. And I will see you guys soon. Talk to you later. Bye.